Thank you all for joining me on this live. Sorry we were having a little bit of difficulty with our schedule. I had to redo everything because I had set it for streaming software instead of my mobile device. So please forgive me. I know there's some of y'all were waiting in the other stream, so I'm going to give chat a few minutes to gather. Thank you all so much for taking some time out of your day. Thank you for joining me on another midday break. We are going to be talking about something that we've discussed a little bit, but many of our comments that we see and emails deal with the children that are in the middle of the stand. Hey, Jamie, how are you? Again, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you all taking some time out of your day. What I really want to stress, hey Valerie, how are you? Is many times during your stand, you're going to deal with children that are in the middle of all this chaos, of your stand, all the pain that you're feeling, they're also feeling some of that. And in talking to some relatives that are going through some issues themselves, their children are really acting out, and it's hard for them to understand why. But that's what I want to do, is bring a little bit of clarity, and also maybe some points on how you might be able to deal with maybe some of you all have older children and they're not in the home. Some of you may have teenage children, but some of you have young children. And so it might apply to some of you, but it may not apply the same way. But hopefully this will bring, again, a little bit of understanding as to why they might be acting the way they do. And this coming live on Saturday, date night, I will address this same topic, but for the avoidant, and how they can walk away from their children and what's going on with them. How they're not walking away from people, they're walking away from emotions many times. So it's this is a part one, that'll be part two. So as the questions come in, Monica's not here today. We have our grandbaby today, so she's taking care of him. So she may not be able to pop in. Thank you all again for joining me. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Carol, Isaac, Faith, Jazz, thank you all so much. We really appreciate. Darlisha, how are you? Thank you for joining us. So good to see so many of you all join me in our live. So again, the first thing I want to impress upon you is to imagine the pain that your children are going through. Imagine your spouse in that same environment, because that's probably what they grew up in. Very similar environment. And as we see in scripture, that sin continues to the next generation, right? So seeing what your children or a child is going through, now put your spouse in their shoes. That's something they went through, or something similar, right? So I want to talk to you about healing your children when a spouse walks away during your stand. And it's like a double heartbreak. We talk a lot about the pain of watching your spouse walk away. We talk about the rejection you feel. We talk about the abandonment that you feel, the silence, the separation, the confusion. But what happens when you're not only watching your marriage hurt, you're watching your children hurt too? And that feels like a double heartbreak, because you can handle your own tears. You can take your pain to God. You can get on your knees and say, Lord, help me to stand. Give me the strength. Give me the courage. Heal me in this process. But when your child asks, where's mom? Where's dad? Why doesn't mom call? Why doesn't dad come to see me? What did I do wrong? And maybe they don't say that, what did I do wrong, out loud, but many times they feel they're the cause of it, or they can feel that way. And suddenly your heart not only hurts for what you're dealing with, but it also breaks for what your children are having to suffer through. And it's in a completely different way. So now you're carrying almost two burdens. And if you have several children, it's now 3 burdens, 4 burdens. You're trying to help your children survive the emotional consequences of something they didn't choose. And I want to give you a couple of things on what to really focus on. One is validating their pain. It's not, again, it's also validating your own. It's not sitting in it, but it's acknowledging that the pain is there. Handling it with truth and grace and the spiritual stability behind it. Because your child doesn't need you to have all the answers. They need to know that they're safe with you. They need to know that they're loved. They need to know that it's not their fault. Validating the child's wounds, it's not agreeing with everything that your child feels. It's communicating that feelings make sense given what they're experiencing. For example, you could say, I can see why you're really sad that dad isn't here. You love your dad and it's okay to miss him. Or again, your mom. I can see why your mom is not here. You love your mom and it's okay to miss them. That's a healthier way than don't be sad, you need to trust God. Don't be sad, just trust God. We're just going to pray through that. Now that's great, but validating their pain and their emotions is so important in this. Again, it's not sitting in it. It's just communicating their feelings, and it's okay to feel this way. And one of the biggest things that we can do, I wouldn't say mistakes, but something we overlook as parents is trying to rush our children through this pain because we want them to get to the healing process. We don't want to see their pain. And so we want to try to take it away as soon as possible. So we might say, don't worry, God's going to bring dad home. Don't worry, God's going to bring mom home. Everything's going to be okay. Don't be sad. We're praying. Your mom loves you. Again, whichever spouse is, we say prodigal, but the one that has left the marriage or wants to leave the marriage. Those statements, they come from a good heart. You mean well by them. Obviously, they're our children. We love them. But sometimes our children don't need an explanation. They need kind of like a permission to grieve. It's okay to feel sad, and comfort them. And as you go before the Lord and you allow the Lord to comfort you, this is what you do for them, right? Because when a parent walks away, a child also experiences the loss. Sometimes they just don't know how to process it. And they become angry, they withdraw, they become clingy, anxious, sometimes defiant. They may suddenly have problems at school. They may start asking questions over and over again. And sometimes they'll even say things that sound disrespectful or rebellious. And underneath that behavior may be a very simple question. Do I still matter to my parents? And that's something, again, if your children are too small, they may not be able to process their own emotions and know how to communicate that. And that's why we have to be careful about labeling everything as rebellion. Sometimes what looks like rebellion is actually grief that doesn't know how to speak. A child may not know how to say, I'm scared that my dad doesn't love me anymore. So they slam the door. They may not know how to say, I feel abandoned. So they become angry. They may not know how to say, I don't understand why my family changed, and so they act out. This is where we as parents, as a stander, you have to become stewards of your children's hearts. And instead of only asking what's wrong with your behavior or what's wrong with you, sometimes we need to ask what's happening underneath that behavior. And here's something you can actually tell your children. It's okay to miss mom. It's okay to miss dad. You're allowed to have questions. You're allowed to be sad. You don't have to protect me from your feelings. Sometimes a child doesn't want to, and we've experienced this with our child, our son, who there was a breakthrough in that, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but they felt that they couldn't give their mom their own emotion because they saw Monica going through her own pain, so they held their emotions inside of them. Of course, they were teenagers at the time, but this is how they felt during, and this was before Monica Stan. So children can feel this way. And again, telling them you don't have to protect me from your feelings. Perhaps one of the most important things you can say is what happened between your parents is not your fault. Letting your children know this wasn't your fault, right? say that often because children tend to personalize family disruption. They may think maybe dad left because I wasn't good enough. Maybe mom doesn't call because she doesn't love me. Maybe if I had behaved better, they would still be together. And we have to interrupt that lie and tell them, you didn't cause this, and it's not your responsibility to fix it. And this is important because your child should be allowed to be a child. Now, how do I talk about the absent parent? This is really important because I know in Monica's stand, you have this anger, you have this bitterness, and it's okay to have those feelings, but don't sit in them, right? Take them to the Lord. And in that anger, you might want to call someone and just unload on them emotionally and just let them know you're hurt, let them know your anger. And we want to talk about something, it's a difficult thing, right? How do I tell my children the truth without destroying their relationship with dad, with mom, the one who's outside of the home? Because you're hurting, you may know things your children don't know. You may have been betrayed, you may have been lied to, you may have evidence of things your children should never have to carry, and you may be tempted to say, your father chose this, your mother doesn't care, look at what they're doing to this family. Your children, they don't need to hear every detail. You don't have to lie to them, you can be honest with them. You can tell them the truth without telling them everything. So there's a difference between honesty and exposure. For example, instead of saying something like your dad abandoned us or your mom abandoned us, they don't care about this family, you can say something like, dad or mom is making some choices right now. And again, this is just an example. However you feel led to reframe the statement, how the Lord is leading you, you do that. I just want to bring some understanding and a little bit of clarity into this situation and help you to be slow to speak, slow to respond, and allow the Lord to work on you before you reach out, before you say something to your children. Again, mom or dad is making some choices right now that mean he isn't living here with us right now, making some choices. And again, you don't have to go into detail, and you can let them know that I know it's painful. I don't have answers to every question, but I want you to know that none of this is your fault. That's truth, and it's also grace, right? You don't have to lie about what's happening, but you also don't have to weaponize the truth. In Romans 12:21, it says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Sometimes overcoming evil with good means refusing to let your spouse's behavior determine the kind of parent you become. Your spouse may be inconsistent. You can be consistent. Your spouse may be emotionally unavailable. You can be emotionally present for your children. Your spouse may create confusion. You can be that clarity in your home for your kids. Here, I want to talk about building a spiritual sanctuary in your home. Creating this spiritual stability in your home. If one parent walks away, the home can begin to feel emotionally unstable. When our kids were coming over and I was leaving the house, in those times Monica was crying, our kids saw that. Now, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have these feelings. And what Monica started doing was just worshiping God again, giving all her emotions to the Lord. But also she realized that sometimes she was giving her emotions to our kids, and they didn't need that at the time because they were going through their own things, watching their dad leave the house, right? So again, the instability when schedules change, the traditions change, birthdays may feel different, holidays feel different. The child may look around and think everything has changed or there's some changes going on. So one of the most powerful things that you can do to create a predictable peace, it's just trying to do things, including your children in it, as difficult as it may be. So your home doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to become a place where your child knows, I'm safe here. That means routines matter. Eat together, pray together, have conversations, create family traditions. Not that this is going to be something that's lasting. Clearly, we're trusting God for the restoration, right? But in this time, create some form of stability, right? Let your children laugh, as difficult as it may be. Let them play. Let them have normal moments. Sometimes a standard can become so focused on the spiritual battle that the entire atmosphere of the home becomes about the marriage. Every conversation can become, do you think they're coming back? Did they call? Did they text? Did they say something? And eventually the child begins to feel like their entire life is centered around the absence of the parent. You can stand for your marriage and still make space for your children to experience the childhood. You can pray for restoration without making your child responsible for the restoration. You can believe God for reconciliation without making every conversation about reconciliation. Your home can become a sanctuary, not because there's no pain, but because there is peace in the middle of your pain. Jesus said in John 14:27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Notice Jesus didn't say, I will give you peace when everything around you is fixed. He said, my peace I give you. Your children may not be able to control whether the other parent comes home, but they can experience a parent who says, we're going to get through this today. We're going to pray today. We're going to trust God. That creates stability. Your child needs to hear this. And I'm going to give you some things that, again, just like a model, something you can write down and start thinking. Take this to the Lord and see how the Lord wants you to respond. But just some ideas. I want to give you a couple of statements that you can consider saying to your children, right? One is letting them know that it's not their fault. Sometimes they can feel like it's their fault, and so they act out, as we talked about earlier. Letting them know that you're allowed to love both your parents. Sometimes we can be a little bitter and angry, and I remember doing this a few times before our stand, just getting upset and just telling our kids, well, you're go talk to your mom, she's the one that did this, right? Or vice versa. And our children are stuck in the crossfire, right? So your children or your child should not feel guilty because they miss the parent who left. You don't have to choose sides. You're their parent. So's the other parent. So's the mom or the dad that's outside the home. Or maybe they're still in the home, but you're still both parents. You don't have to recruit them into your pain. And I'm not saying anybody's doing this. I'm not saying, again, it's just maybe this is something that could help you in the future if you might lean towards wanting to do something like this. You can always talk to me about how you feel, letting your kids know that you're a safe place for them. Even if their feelings make you uncomfortable, even if they say, I'm angry at God, I'm angry at you, I miss mom, I miss dad, why can't our family be normal? Give them this room, give them this space. You don't have to correct every emotion. You can help them process it. I think that's so important, is helping your child process their emotions. And another, I'll leave you with this one. God is with us even when we don't understand what is happening. That's where faith becomes real for your child. It's not just God is going to bring dad home or mom home, but God is with us right now. That's faith your child can actually hold on to. And I want to leave you with this. Speaking directly to each and every one of you, maybe you've been asking yourself, am I doing enough? Am I damaging my children? Should I be doing something differently? I want you to hear this. You cannot control every wound your child experiences. You cannot make another person show up. You cannot control the choices of the absent parent, but you can create a home where your child doesn't have to face that pain alone. You can listen. You can validate. You can protect them from unnecessary details. You can refuse to turn them against the other parent. You can establish routines. You can pray. You can create peace. You can keep pointing them toward Jesus. Psalms 34:18. I love to say this. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. That applies to you as well. But it applies to your children also. So when your child is hurting, don't just ask, how do I get them to stop hurting? Ask, how can I help them know they don't have to hurt alone? Your child doesn't need a perfect parent. They need a present parent. They need a parent who can say, I see you, I hear you, I know this hurts, this isn't your fault, and we're going to walk through this together. And standers, remember this. You are standing for your marriage, but you're also stewarding your child's heart. Don't let the fight for restoration cause you to miss the child who is standing right in front of you. Let your home become a sanctuary, let your presence become predictable, and let your words become healing. And let your children see that even when people are inconsistent, God is still faithful. Amen? I'll get to some of the comments. Hey, Carol, how are you doing? I might have to put my glasses on. You said, he says he has a good relationship with the kids, even though for over a year he barely speaks to them. Why does he think this is justifiable? He needs to spend time with them. Yeah, Carol, and we can, because that's, remember, they're not walking away from people. They're not walking away from you or the kids. They're walking away from the emotions that they can't confront. And so they will convince themselves that I'm good enough. It's really what they need to hear, right? They need to validate, like, I'm a good enough parent. But I think inside they really know, your husband really knows that they're not doing enough. And so the important thing is not reminding them of this, because Monica told me several times, and I don't hold this against her. She had every right, and she was absolutely right when she said that I wasn't a godly example to my kids at times. I wasn't a godly leader in the home at times. Wasn't a godly husband at times. She didn't come out and say you're a terrible dad, but she wanted to show me that my kids needed me, but I couldn't hear it at that time. Again, I'm not justifying anything that I did, and I'm working on those things now. And it's important that important to understand that allowing the Lord to work on your husband in this process and breaking them of that. The moment of workplace on the standard, my goodness, Lord, give us strength. I don't have kids, but this resonated with me as a child of God. Been struggling lately, feeling like I should be stronger and not have said sad emotions as much as I do. Reminds me it's okay and breathe. Praise God, Jamie, that's awesome. I'm glad you see that. Yes. Dante, my brother, how are you doing? This is how I've been helping my 3 autistic boys, 13, 14. That's awesome, Bonnie. Vanessa, thank you, Vanessa. You're so awesome. But the child suffers most. He doesn't abandon his intermediate family, but his own child. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, and that's where, again, I was doing the same thing during my stand. I didn't want to see the hurt that I was causing or that I was inflicting upon not just Monica, but more so my kids. I just wanted to shut that out. And it makes sense when you understand that we detach ourselves from that, because we know that although we're running from that, remember, the avoidant wants to avoid all those emotions and what they're causing. So we try to shut that out as much as possible. Jessica, in the past year, he only saw our kids 5 days and call a few weeks. Yeah, it absolutely, it does. Shame does hurt everyone, even for the stander. It can affect them. Absolutely. Yeah, Jessica, again, it doesn't help the pain, but hopefully it helps to understand why they're doing this. But again, this is, thank you, Natasha. Appreciate that. Cheyenne, how you doing? My husband and I have an almost 2-year-old and a baby due in October. He almost ignores the fact that we have a baby on the way. Made all decisions on my own and picked out a name for our son. Yeah, and Cheyenne, what if the Lord, what if I were to tell you, and I'm not saying this is a fact, I'm not trying to be prophetic, but what if the Lord uses the birth of your child in October to bring your husband back, to really break his heart? Um, well, I don't mean to break his heart, but to break him of what he, I guess, to really make him understand or see what he's been doing. So the Lord could use that. They're not there for themselves, which they are. They're running away and not dealing with themselves and their own issues. How can they be there for their children? Yeah, it's unfortunate, but he didn't seem to care about naming our son. Yeah. And during the time before our grandson was even born, I was I wasn't involved in that either. And I love my grandbabies, but I was totally absent. And of course, he wasn't born yet, but I wasn't involved in many of those processes during my time. I was shutting all that out. I was running from everything. They can't give you what you don't have. Can we get hey Monica, my husband has been no contact with me or kids for 7 months, and he was always about his kids, and he was our boys football coach. Yeah, and that's Monica, that's probably one of the reasons why he avoids, because it's, again, a lot of guilt in what he's done, and facing that is going to require a lot of brokenness in him. Happy birthday, Jamie. That's good. That's good. That's a good way to hope. We'll pray that your husband does reach out. Which direction do you recommend? I pray for my husband to release shame. Our daughter is 3 and doesn't know. Well, I think obviously with Monica, during Monica's stand, and I'll say this because for Fia Amira, um, Monica her prayers shifted. So she started praying, Lord, get a hold of him, break him, break him. Then the Lord started shifting her prayers over her and changing Monica and realizing Monica's pain and her attachment wounds and how to seek the Lord to secure herself in him. So um, just a general prayer. Monica started praying. She could only pray at one point towards the end of her stand, the prayer of repentance over me. I think she was praying Psalm 51 over me, and then the rest was for herself, for her mom, for reconciling different relationships that were broken in her life, and focusing on the kids. Awesome, Cheyenne Caleb. That's an awesome name. More heartbreaking is the past year my husband didn't contact any of us or acknowledge our birthdays, anniversaries, or holidays. Yeah, that was difficult for me as well. I did so more out of obligation, but yeah, it was very difficult to sit through Christmas one year. I was just there physically, not emotionally, not, yeah, it was hard. No kids in marriage, but he says he has a baby with the other person. He has his own place and appears to be building a family over there. Why stand? Stand for healing. Stand for yourself. Stand so that the Lord get a hold of you to release whatever emotions you may have towards that situation. That can be, I could see that and be bitter about it and be angry towards it for you. If that were me, I could see how hurtful that can be. And so pray that the Lord release the anger, release the resentment, or whatever emotions you're feeling towards that, angel, and stand for the Lord. Stand for the soul of your husband, and see where the Lord leads you in all that. Alma, you got some tea? You're welcome, Jimmy. We ran into the other person at the fair 2 weeks ago. Hey, Raquel. When a standard encourage her kids that everything is going to be okay, they ask if daddy will be back. We say yes on God's time. What if they mention this to the prodigal, and he gets upset. Well, you cannot control what your kids say, but if they're old enough, you might want to encourage them. uh, Again, this is just suggestion. Take it to the Lord, but let your kids know, like right now, mommy or daddy, in this case, they're in a different place right now, and it might be best just to let your dad know that you love them, or not even that, just show them that you love them. Don't be angry with them, because there's pain that your dad's dealing with that right now he may not know. Again, depending on the age of your kids and how the Lord leads you. Again, these are just suggestions for you, because that can be, for the prodigal, especially the avoidant, it's hard for them to see that. So I could see them getting upset or just being cold and shutting down to that. Yeah, Monica, you just go before the Lord and let the Lord anchor you, or anchor yourself to the Lord and his promises, his word, and just let the Lord heal you in all of this, and fix your eyes on him. I know that situation is very tough, but let the Lord heal you in all of this. We just pray over you, and pray that the Lord release this hurt on you, this pain, and just comfort you in this time. Yeah, I read the email, Alma. I remember that. You're welcome, Amir. Good afternoon. Hey, Ollie, how are you doing? Jessica, unrelated, but the Lord told me it's creating a new marriage, and ever since then, you had so much panic, anxiety, and random worry. Not sure why. Well, Jessica, again, that might be part of your anxious attachment, your anxiety, being prepared, or the fear of the unknown, like we see with the story of the Israelites in the Exodus. They were afraid of the future promise, so they wanted to return to a familiar pain. So your body might be returning to a familiar pain, so you're acting out anxiously, and you're getting anxiety, and there's a lot of fear. So it's move forward and just trust that the Lord, and again, validating this pain. You're afraid of the unknown, but Lord, I'm not going to sit in this. I'm going to trust you in your promise. Truth is, I would have done something 2 months ago. It's so awesome to know the anger is away. That's awesome, Alma. That's so encouraging. You stopped making it about how I feel and started seeing how much he is hurting. My husband is a very prideful man, and any type of emotion he believes makes him weak. Yep. And that's why I've said this before. I realize now, before I really didn't. In even holding Monica's hands, I didn't want to project that I was weak to other men. Monica took it as I was embarrassed of her, or I didn't want to be seen, or I didn't want other females seeing me. But I felt like it was weak, and I didn't want to be seen as weak to other men. So I know it sounds kind of corny, but it was part of a wound that I developed from my childhood. When he takes pictures of him and the kids, he and I once, since he has been back, but for some reason doesn't want to take a family photo together yet, and on the dressing room. Yeah, and faith, hope, love. You just have to put it on the Lord's timing. Let the Lord lead you in that. It's a breaking process. It's a gradual process. So 8 and 10. Okay. That's good, Alma. That's good. And this is what the Lord is trying to do with every standard, is prepare you. That's good. You tell your grandchildren to pray for the grandfather. That's awesome. The best thing you can do for your spouse and your children is work on yourself and your relationship with God. Absolutely. Oklahoma, 105 degrees. Wow. Right now it's 92. I'm in the car, so the other day my husband did say that he doesn't see the possibility of restoration because of fear of judgment and retaliation from my family. He brought this up on his own, so I see wheels are turning. That's good, Cheyenne. That's good. Absolutely, God's timing. Yeah, and Cheyenne, that's really important to see the what is. The fact that he did see that, mention the restoration, that is a fear that he's going to have to face. And he said that openly. And how you respond to things like that is very important. So, validating that pain and recognizing, like, I know this, but we can, if the Lord leads you to say something like, if it ever comes, we can work on that together, or just at least saying, I understand your pain, I understand that emotion. That's really important to validate that as well. So that's good though. Looking at it as what is. I've got a few more minutes. Again, this teaching is going to be kind of like a part one. We're going to go into the avoidant. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but we're going to talk about the avoidant and why they, because we see a lot of comments and emails, why they do this from the kids. I don't understand. So we're going to address some of those issues, and hopefully it brings a little bit of clarity and some understanding. Hey, Maddie, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Again, thank you all so much for taking some time out of your day to join us for another midday break. I know things can be a little hectic, so just the fact that you all are taking some time out of your day to join me, I really appreciate it. Hey, Larissa, how are you doing? I wondered if I should invite my husband over today for his birthday. Well, Larissa, we would want to do that. How do you feel things have been with your husband so far? Is the Lord leading you to do something like that? And it's important because here's the other thing that I told a standard that we spoke with this past week. Sometimes we don't do things because we're afraid and we fear rejection and we don't want to go ahead of God, which is perfect. But we also have to understand that if you have doubt, of course, again, just suggestion. This is what I said to the standard. If you have doubt, take it to the Lord. If you feel like you're still undecided, God can still use the little things that we do to step out. Again, it's not that we've sinned. We want to be completely obedient to God and follow in his steps and follow his path and be obedient to his word. If you invited your husband and he said no, the Lord can still use that. So don't be afraid to step out. But obviously you want to take that to the Lord. I don't want to suggest that you do or you don't. Just, again, sounds cliche, but you really have to allow the Lord to lead you. But don't be afraid to step out, if that makes sense, right? For people, Vanessa, thank you so much. I wish him a happy birthday this morning. Did he respond? You're nervous to ask? Well, Monica was nervous to give me flowers, and not that I rejected them, but I didn't acknowledge them, so that was rejection for her. So many times when it's facing your fears, you're afraid of it because you don't want to be rejected. You take that to the Lord, and sometimes that's keeping you from being obedient. It's so hard to focus on what is when the other stuff screams so loudly. Remind yourself that mustard seed faith moves mountains, and even though you cannot see, believe God is working behind the scenes. Absolutely. It's a good word. Jessica, I know he loves our kids and carries shame about not being here, but even during our false start, he was so distracted with them. Also, then he left again. Even then, our kids knew he wasn't fully here. Well, that's good. You're welcome. Thank you. Hey, Monica, you made it. Did our grandson leave? Monica says, put it before the Lord. Obey what the Lord is directing you to do. God directed me to buy you flowers. Sorry. Do it unto the Lord. Absolutely. Carol, and you just trust God. Trust that the Lord can use that. What the enemy meant for evil, God can use for good, right? So you just say, thank you, Lord, for another day. Thank you for victory in my life. Thank you that you're present for me. Thank you um, for all that you've done. Look at the what is in the Lord. Look at what the Lord is doing for you. Look at what the Lord has done for you up until this point, and just seek the Lord. Let me see. I have to see what time Okay, got a few more minutes. Any more questions? Again, as I said before, we're going to go live this Saturday, and we'll talk about a part 2 on the kids involved in your stand. And I hope this has brought some encouragement. Again, some like a blueprint on how to handle your children. If you have young ones or even teenagers, a few ideas that you can take to the Lord. The Lord says, when defending my children, absolutely, yep. The Lord will fight for you, right? You only need to be still. That's awesome. Well, I guess I will end the stream right there unless a question comes in, but I thank you all so much for joining me. You all are awesome. We love you all. Monica and I pray for you all. We look forward to meeting with you all during our lives, answering whatever questions we can. Forgive me if I overlook some of the questions and I don't respond. Sometimes I'll just skip over because I might be answering one person's questions over and over again, so I might skip over some. But if you feel there's a question you really need to have answered, you can email. We're not responding to every email right now because we're trying to fix some things, but we're trying to get to as many of them as possible. And again, we just thank you all for trusting us with your story. We thank you all for your prayers. There was a breakthrough with our son, just to give you all a little update, so we're encouraged by that. It's not what we want completely, but there's something. And you could look at it as a negative, but there's so much positive. So thank you all for your prayers. We pray for each and every one of you, your stand, your children, and remember, your stand is bigger than you. We love you all so much. We thank you. Vanessa, thank you for the job that you're doing. You're awesome. We thank you for celebrating with us as we celebrate with you all and your victories. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. Thank you all. We really appreciate you all. I will get to that, Monica. I will. Again, there's quite a few emails that have come in. I'm trying to get to the ones that have not met with us, that have not heard a response from me. So I will get to that eventually, Monica. I apologize. Thank you, Darlisha. Really appreciate you all. Again, I'll cut it off right there. Monica says I have a hard time letting go, but thank you all so much. We love you. We look forward to date night. We will see you then. God bless. Have a good day. Bye-bye.